co-founder fallouts are like the number one reason businesses don't work.
Yeah.
We've both invested the same amount of time and money into back.
Started with about 50k. We each took a $7.5 loan.
By 2050, fashion will become the world's second largest polluter after oil. So it's a big issue.
Are people willing to buy something and wait for it to be made?
It's a cash positive way of running a business because we take cash first, then make the product. Making to order was our way of eliminating all of that waste. We don't have any returns, 0.2% return rate. Most clothing brands are getting 50-60% sent back in the post.
Wow.
The reprocessing of that is often more expensive than just chucking the garment out. Like, that's fast fashion.
I think the sacrifice often gets missed when you're talking to startup founders, and a lot of them are reluctant to talk about it.
But people buy people, I think first and foremost, a certain number of touch points before they're willing to buy something.
Quite likely we're going to fail, and I think that's like the number one most important thing that you can accept as a business.
We had a call at about 5 a.m. being like, you guys need to get down here, you've been robbed.
Now that we're sat in the shop and I can see what it looks like, what was the process actually like for you to choose your store?
When we started the business, it was intended to be e-commerce only. On our first launch day, we got a pop-up to welcome our friends and family and just have a little event and a party. And the reality was that at that pop-up, we sold probably 80% of the suits that we sold in that first collection. So it was a quite early realization that people being able to touch, feel and try what we were selling was really important. So then moving into our next collection, we were like, okay, let's get a longer pop-up. Let's do a week or so, because that was good. That was fun. Ended up finding a space in Spitalfields where we took short-term leases, which meant that we didn't pay any rent, but got to be in this amazing space and fill a hole for the landlord whilst they're waiting for a L'Oreal to come and sign a 10-year lease.
Is that what into it?
Yeah, they did actually in the end. And then from that point, realised that physical retail really worked for us. We enjoyed it. It was a great space to host the brand and people, and the Batch Members Club, as we called it, and run lots of different events, etc. Got to the point where we were ready to settle into a full-time shop. In our heads, we wanted to go to Soho because that's where a lot of like-minded brands were and sort of where you'd go to shop naturally. Couldn't quite find the right shop there, and then stumbled across this place, which had been empty for a year and a half. There were quite a few other empty shops on this same street, which I think is probably why people were avoiding it, or the bigger brands, which was what they were asking for, to come and sign a long-term lease. But we sort of fell in love with it and saw the potential of the space and the street and what we could do with it, and managed to wangle a good deal because nobody wanted it. And so we kind of fell into it in many ways rather than picked our perfect shop. It just ended up stumbling across it and took a punt, and so far it's paid off.
What did it actually look like when you first walked in? Was it just completely empty? Because now people that are watching on YouTube will see this, but it looks amazing the way it's been designed. But was it just a shell when you first walked in?
Yeah, total shell. I think it was very much an ambitious project that we took on, not having really ever, no project management skills necessarily, no interior design skills necessarily. But yeah, it just was a blank canvas that enabled us to be super creative. We're sat upstairs. It's got a big downstairs. It's a 2,000 square foot building that was totally empty. So, we've designed a cafe and a kitchen type area upstairs where customers can come in, have a coffee or a beer, and then downstairs is a much more private fitting room. So yeah, just had bags of potential that we were excited by, and we were like, you know what, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, you said there that you've had no sort of project management experience or like interior design. What were your backgrounds before you started Batch?
So I worked for a drink startup called Punchy. Joined it as soon as I finished uni, went straight in, was sort of doing some part-time sales over the summer, got along with the team, and joined pretty much at the same time that they launched the product. Ended up staying there for 5 years and finished up as head of operations, learned loads and loads about startups and the basic things, how to do a cash flow, when you register for VAT, those sort of soft business skills that you don't really get taught. And fell in love with it, fell in love with entrepreneurialism and that sort of startup journey, going from 0 to 1, and how you do that and what the mistakes are and how to try and not make them second time round. And then, just sort of got to the point where I was ready to crack on my own thing.
Yeah, but so for context, Sam and I went to Newcastle Uni together. I was studying business and German. I spent a year out in Berlin where I had my first experience of like startup culture, which thrives there. Worked for a cinematography company, very niche, but great 6 months. First experience, 2 co-founders. I was just the third member of staff. So nice experience from initial like startup at a very young age. Then after Newcastle, worked for Oddballs, which is an underwear company, which we were just discussing, for 6 years. The last year and a half of which was building Batch at the same time down here in London. Oddballs is based in the northeast, and that was just business scaling rapidly and continues to do so. And I got to experience all of the nice things that come with a e-commerce business that's growing quickly, and great exposure to lots of areas of the business, which gave me quite a well-rounded skill set in order to be able to set Batch up with Sam.
Whose idea was it in the first place to set this business up?
Sam's, to be fair.
Yeah, it was my initial idea, which was just born from I wanted a casual suit and I couldn't find any good ones. And then put together some of the experience that I found in the drinks industry around cash flow being an issue and having to pay for product up front. Started chatting to a few friends at sort of dinner parties and barbecues about this idea of a casual suit. Realised that there was more of a market for it than just me, and that, you know, there's a shared problem with all men of what to wear when you want to look good, and that dreaded smart casual dress code that sort of strikes fear in everyone when you hear it. And then brought it to Julian, and we just massively developed the idea from there into what it is today. I'm sort of the perfect person to bring on that journey and put all of this sort of wider, longer term thinking that wasn't quite structuralized yet into action. And within 2 days of having Julian said he wanted to join the business, he'd gone to Company's House, registered it, and suddenly it was real and the wheels were in motion. And without having that input, it probably would have been an idea for another 6 months to 12 before we'd actually got anything started, I reckon.
But I think this is the key thing, and a lot of people I've spoken to on the podcast, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people who've started businesses in the past and they've finally settled on the one that they want to actually run with in the future. But I know so many people that want to start businesses and have never actually done it. And I think everyone overcomplicates what that initial process looks like. But actually just like doing one thing after another, like you did, just go on Company's House, set the company up. Was it actually called Batch London to begin with? That's the first ever name.
Sam approached me with a few names, and one of which was Batch. And I was like, yeah, that works. That works. And obviously then you go through the whole trademarking thing. Is that name actually going to be viable for the business? It was, thankfully, Batch London especially. But yeah, I mean, we like getting shit done, and I love clothes. Sam to approach me with a fashion brand opportunity was very interesting for me and quite exciting. We had the autonomy in our roles to be able to, because obviously there's an insane amount of work that needed to be done. It took us 10 months from our first conversation to launching Batch. And within that period of time, the learning curve was more steeper than most. The barrier to entry to create a fashion brand largely is difficult because of the skill set required in order to be able to create garments, which we didn't have. We like clothes. We knew what we wanted the clothes to look like. Well, technically, we have designed our casual suits, but you had to find the logistics chain in order to be able to make that work, from the designer to the pattern cutter to local production to sample to the fabric supplier to trying to get taken on in the UK to eventually manufacturing our first batch in Portugal. So we were back and forth to Porto in the first 10 months whilst, you know, still working for Punchy and Oddballs respectively. So quite a crazy 10 months from first conversation to launch, but it was all fueled on let's just send it. And, you know, what's the worst that can happen, really? Like, we're not scared of giving things a go. And that Batch eventually launching was, you know, credit to that.
You were both working in your own jobs at this point, so this was a complete side hustle to begin with.
Yeah.
What did your actual days look like during this period? Because you are working whilst also trying to build something, but like you said, you're trying to source fabrics, go out to the suppliers and that sort of stuff. What was actually a day looking like for you guys?
I think we were both lucky that we had a lot of autonomy in our respective roles, and in many ways, like, as long as we were getting the job done, that was good enough, right? So it gave us, I mean, the reality was we were working like fairly crazy hours, as you would expect, both working for two startups. Whilst trying to start a startup is probably slightly ill-advised, but it just meant that you could have the flexibility to take a call at 2 p.m. in the afternoon in our current jobs, because we could finish what we're doing in our current jobs at 9 p.m. that night. And so we were able to move our days around and find the flexibility within that. Probably both used up a good amount of our annual leave to go out to Porto. The beauty of that is, though, is you're doing it with one of your best mates. And probably some of the funnest times we've had as a business with the trips to Porto, where you spend a few hours at the factory, which is eye-opening in its own regard and really interesting. You're seeing things that you haven't seen before, but then you get to go and finish the day with a nice meal out on your respective sort of business account, which is essentially your own money, just put into a different account.
Yeah, we spent way too much in Portugal, like looking back, but it was part of the fun, like taking people out with us, going out for dinners, nights out, we'd cover it all, but well worth the early investment. Like, business culture from the start has always been there, no matter who's like been involved at any stage.
Was it all self-funded to begin with?
Yeah.
Started with about 50k, which was mine and Julian's savings, and then we each took a £7,500 loan. My dad loaned it to me, and Julian's granny loaned it to him, which thankfully we've now paid back in full. Which for us was a lot of like £50,000 feels like a lot of money. When you actually come to starting something, it goes pretty quickly. But I think our biggest investment early days was into brand, and we spent like proportionately way, you could argue, more than we should have to get the idea going, but our lens on it was, you can't trademark a piece of clothing. You can't patent a piece of clothing, but you can trademark a brand, and that's sort of your lifeblood in the fashion industry. Anyone can go and copy your garment legally and move on with it. So it was really important to us that we got it right from the start, that it wasn't something that we'd have to go and rip up the playbook and start again later down the line. And our brand is nearly identical to when we first started.
Really?
Not necessarily in terms of the brand positioning and the messaging behind it, but the logo's not changed.
Has a bit.
The word mark's changed a little bit, but our sun and moon logo is the same since the start. Slightly updated the word mark, but again, it's fairly similar to when we first started. And so I think like it was a gamble, but overall it's probably paid off.
Yeah, I think it's really important that if you're launching a fashion brand, and especially something at our price point, initially the suits were $330, unproven in terms of the product's quality, etc. The brand has to be good enough for people to take it seriously. So that early investment was critical in terms of people taking Batch seriously. So yeah, it was money well spent.
Did you actually employ somebody to do the brand side of things for you, or were you both doing it just on the fly?
We worked with an agency called Hello Hide, to be fair. I think they've disbanded since, but smart guys, really liked them, didn't pay them loads, like, to be totally transparent, around 10, 12k for like a brand rollout. So
yeah, it was about 25% of our starting budget.
Yeah, quite a lot. I have not done that before. Yeah,
it's quite
a
lot. It's quite a lot.
I now know what Batch represents, but is it what was the initial inception that you wanted to create this made to order clothing brand to sort of e-commerce businesses, for example, that rely a lot on having stock and then sending it out, etc., but you've gone for a different approach? Was that always the idea from the start?
Yeah. Operationally, we knew that it would make a lot of sense. As Sam said, coming from consumer brands and seeing the pitfalls of the model, it made a lot of sense. I think when you're setting up a fashion brand these days, you ought to consider the ways in which you can be sustainable. There's a huge issue with fashion waste, the amount of clothes that end up in landfill. By 2050, fashion will become the world's second largest polluter after oil. So it's a big issue. The sad reality is nobody really gives a shit about sustainability. But for the first couple of years of business, we really hung our hat on it to a certain extent. Making to order was our way of eliminating all of that waste and being a sustainable fashion brand. But over the first 2 years in business, quickly learned that wasn't going to be a strong enough marketing / reason for people to buy Batch. As I was saying, when it comes to making a purchase decision, sustainability falls way down the agenda, and price and quality is the most important things. Thankfully, I'm sure we'll come on to it in a little bit more depth, what making to order allows us to do is charge a lot less for really high quality. The suits are handmade here in London with Italian fabrics and retail at $395. So made to order has lots of amazing traits. It's more sustainable, it eliminates all of the waste. It's a cash positive way of running a business because we take cash first, then make the product. But most importantly, it means the consumer gets much better quality for less. And ultimately, that's why we've continued to back the made to order model, even though many people will be like, well, why don't you hold a little bit of stock, etc. But we truly believe in it.
Yeah, and I'm going through the process right now because I've become a customer. But I think that what you're doing really well, and I mentioned this to you actually, is that you can buy a product and almost like never hear from the company again until it arrives at your doorstep. But like that journey is made a lot easier and more comfortable for the consumer when you are sending out regular emails, which you guys are doing. Which was that always just something that you were just naturally thought we should be doing that, or has it just come over time?
It was essential, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like the biggest question when starting this business was, are people willing to buy something and wait for it to be made?
Yeah.
And I think we've gone quite a long way to prove that's the case, but we're still in that stage of like, how far does that and why does that spread and what's the perfect process? But we knew early doors, if you're going to buy something and wait for it, you've got to know that like the experience has to be elevated. So our initial sort of angle with it was having gone to the factories and like, we were learning about fashion at the same time and tailoring and how things are produced. And it was quite eye-opening to both of us how many different sets of hands a jacket or a garment would pass through before it got to a final product, machines included. And it's somewhere between 35 and 50, depending on it. So you start to get a real sense of the value of a product when you see how much like human work and effort is going into it. And so we wanted to translate that for our customers and show them who was making it and how it's made. And the funny reality is that there's probably only 10% of our consumers that actually care about who's making it and how it's made.
Okay.
The rest of the 90 just want to get the updates and know that it's ticking along.
Yeah.
And what we found is that people are willing to buy and wait so long as they know what the process is and they know that they're not having to chase you for where it is, that they get to follow the journey through from inception to getting their product. And there is a real sense of delayed gratification when the product does arrive. It's almost like, boy, math, you've spent the money, someone otherwise it's free, right? That's how it feels.
Does also having a store play a pivotal role in that? Because you can come in, you can see it, you can try it on, you can meet you guys. It's not like you're just trusting a random website online. Do you think that having a physical store is critical for being able to get people to buy into that?
I think it's a trust driver for sure. And I think we knowing that there's somewhere that you can go and knock on the door if your product doesn't arrive, particularly early days, we're now at the point where we've got far more validation that's from, whether that's from reviews or word of mouth or influencers, celebs, social proof. But early days, before you have all of that, there aren't any reviews on a website. You've really got to trust that it's you're going to get what you've been promised, and knowing that there's somewhere to go and shout at someone if it doesn't arrive, I think adds layers to that validation, that trust.
Or from what I heard earlier on, chucking bricks for a window.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully that wasn't a strange customer.
Yeah. What happened with that story?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a big brand moment. I think it was just over a year ago, last November, October-November time. Our Spitalfield store was robbed. 2 bricks were chucked through the window in the middle of the night. We had a call at about 5 a.m. being like, you guys need to get down here. You've been robbed. At which point, had no idea how bad it was going to be. So worried, because if they'd got in and ransacked the place, we'd have been scuppered. Arrived to have found that it had just been 10 suits that had been pulled through the smashed window. They were our new herringbone suits, so it was a bit awkward at the time, but in the grand scheme of things, a bit of relief came over us because we were like, well, this is totally manageable. And then the marketeers in us were like, this is quite a big opportunity. This is very PRable. We can turn this tragedy into a positive story. Posted about it on social media. Somewhat illegally filmed the guys from the CCTV smashing through the window. So we had that footage, shared that online, and then that spiraled into a few agencies reaching out and being like, can we help you amplify this story? And then within 48 hours from being stolen, had flipped an out-of-home campaign into this big say it suited story of like these well-dressed robbers with a balaclava and a back suit on saying well-dressed criminals at large do not compliment them or something. So yeah, it was a huge brand moment. It put us on the map in London, ironically, and it's actually been our biggest story to date, and people still come to the shop and say, yeah, I discovered you guys from when you were robbed. We have the bricks up in our bar to kind of commemorate the story. But yeah, it was a funny moment for us.
Was that the first moment that you said then that you actually started to gain a lot of traction? Because now, like, you see your like LinkedIn profiles and this sort of thing, you guys are like one of the coolest brands at the moment to be sort of building in London. But was that one of those moments where it sort of put you on the map?
I think there'd been at least an accumulation of a lot of hard work prior to that happening, and we'd both created like good personal personas and profiles, and Batch had definitely already started to get a good amount of awareness from a brand perspective before that happened. It was just like weirdly good timing. October, November, December is the best time for brands to be doing stuff. It's when guys are shopping. They're our best months. It was when we were about to move to our Covent Garden store. We were in the process of taking this place on. So it was like a really good timing for us in terms of all of the other stuff that we were doing. And we vlogged opening this store, and in the vlog, first or second episode was the robbery. So it really like tied itself together nicely. And it wasn't like the moment where we took off, but we can definitely look back on it with some admiration and know that it had a good positive impact on the business.
Yeah, it felt like an inflection point. However, although like we look back on it with fond eyes now, and at the time we weren't having a great time with it. Like we were midway through building this shop, that we were project managing ourselves, trying to do it with a tenth of the budget, literally a tenth of the budget for what was quoted to us. And to achieve that, we were doing brand partnerships, and we got the floor tiles for free and the paint and the wall tiles in exchange for content. And then suddenly you're managing 20 relationships rather than one, trying to run our other physical store at the same time.
Taking on new staff.
In some ways,
2 new staff at the time as well.
In some ways, it was the worst possible time for it to happen.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we managed. It did get some virality, and we managed to put out a good campaign. And it probably was an inflection point for the brand that we'll look back on. And brands have several inflection points, but that will most likely be one of them. And also personally, that we managed to survive it and come out relatively unscathed without too many war wounds.
But this happens in life all the time. Like I went through a situation a few years ago when you're in it, you think this is the worst thing in the world, and like the entire world's sort of coming down on you. But then a couple of years later, you look through it, you look at that moment with like rose tinted glasses, and you're like, oh, actually, like that wasn't as bad as you thought. But in the midst of it, it's hell. Like you just want it to be over. And I can imagine for you guys, like with everything that you're taking on, like that was probably the same.
I think when you make a startup brand, you get used to everything just being like solutions. What's the solution? What's the solution? You do not dwell on the problem. You ain't got time to. Yeah, it was a bit of a shitter, but like the fact that we flipped it so quickly into something so positive, like was like licking our wounds very quickly, and we were like on to the next problem basically.
When did you get your first like sort of like celebrity or influencer things involved? Because I know that at the moment you've got a lot of very well-known people that are now wearing the suits. How did it all come about in the first place?
I mean, we saw what's lovely about our outfit is it solves the same problem for, celebrities as it does for, the average Joe. Batch looks great on everyone, and guys are struggling to dress smart casually well. So, and people that are on TV or on stage or on podcasts or, all of these like public appearances, etc. The list goes on of what you could wear, the use case for wearing one. People want to dress smart casually well. The traditional suit is falling short. So we're filling the same problem for celebrities as we are for, Joe Blogs, as I said. So yeah, we have a pretty simple strategy, reaching out to people on Instagram, inviting them down to, well, at the time it was our Spitalfield store, it's now a Covent Garden flagship, for the offer to come down and get a casual suit fitted. It doesn't matter who you are, that's an attractive opportunity. So I think like the first like big names that we had through that weren't like necessarily, like we had like some sports people in rugby, like Ugo Monye was one of our early sort of supporters from a celebrity standpoint, but then Ramesh Ranganathan was really quite early. It was about 2 years ago. We're 3.5 now for context. He visited our Spitalfield store, realised he loved the product, decided it was going to be his official tour outfit, wore it all of last year on his Hustle tour, and the list goes on in terms of the people that we've reached out, and it's a strategy that we'll continue to do. We love getting to meet people that we admire. We really focus on talent, actors, sports people, musicians, people that have a lot of strong cultural relevance rather than like, influencers. And the fact that they all come to the store to get fitted means that we're able to build a really genuine, authentic relationship with people that means they want to wear it and be ambassadors for the brand rather than sending stuff out in the post, hoping it fits and falling short. So yeah, it's a big part of who we are and our DNA, and we'll continue to milk it as much as we can.
But I even saw recently on, I think it was on LinkedIn, that you Andy Carroll was nearby and as a massive Geordie, so
yeah, I missed it.
Oh, you
yeah, I was out. It was all Sam that one. I couldn't believe it. I saw the Instagram pop up and it was Andy Carroll. I was like, no. I was working from home. I was like, for God's sake, as if I'm missing Andy Carroll going him anyway. Sam will explain.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on what Julian said, I think we built that trust over time. So initially we started with people that we knew that had some influence, and then we went into, like, by and large, avoided fashion and fashion influences to begin with. We went down knowing that our like core customer isn't the super fashionable guy, because they know how to dress, they know what they're doing. We should be though. Yeah, we'll build into
Come
that.
for you.
But really, it's the people that want to look good and they don't really know how, and they need a bit of an extra helping hand or a bit of advice. So that's sort of our core market, and slowly built that trust over time. We did a series where we filmed inspirational creatives and went and interviewed them, and I think just slowly validate it more and more. And each time you unlock the next stage, it sort of unlocks the next one. It's kind of that, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So it's been quite nice to watch that progressively grow over time, and starting with chefs and comedians, and yeah, so that's been cool. But yeah, Andy Carroll was a funny one. Maddie, who's our new sort of shop and events manager, came into the shop and was like, I'm pretty sure Andy Carroll sat in his car over there. So we were like working out whether we go and knock on the window or not. It's a bit of an invasion of privacy. And then as we were chatting about it, he walks past the window, and the three of us that were in here were staring at him, and we catch eyes, and so I just sort of like instinctively waved because I thought it's a bit weird, and then jumped on Instagram, sent him a DM just saying, look, spotted you in the area. If you've got 20 minutes and fancy coming for a suit fitting, we'd love to kit you out. And he said, class, my girlfriend's just getting her nails done, so this is perfect, I haven't got anything to do. So he popped in and tried on a couple of suits. We gifted him one for free, which is sort of generally how we work it, without any sort of, you need to do this, you need to post X, Y, and Z, because I don't think it creates quite the right relationship. But he loved it, and then bought another one on top. And
Nice.
in a strange way, it's become a bit of a business development tool, getting celebs and influencers in, because they've all got a bit of cash to spend, and they're used to spending a good amount of money on clothes, and they're surprised by the value, and beyond that want to support two lads that are just trying to do things a bit differently, rather than a big corp that's trying to leverage them for their influence. Which, don't get me wrong, we are to a certain extent, but without any, it's just like, you're going to enjoy this, we'd love for you to wear it, and yeah, we get the support in return, which is really nice.
Yeah, we've got a nice product and it's good value for money. And actually, when we first met, we were talking about how I've got friends. I've always really been into my fashion, but I've got a number of friends who basically their girlfriends or their wives now dress them, and I feel like that's the sort of like the ideal person where they can go, do you know what, independently I'm going to go to get like a nice bit of clothing made, or to come down and do a suit fitting, and then go and collect it afterwards, and then go home to the missus and be like, look what I bought, and then like get that recognition. But it's quite daunting, I think, for a lot of men, where they're just like, sometimes I just have my like standard outfits that I wear and just sort of go through them, but to actually come home with something a little bit different, I imagine is something that a lot of men would look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a consistent theme that guys need the girlfriends, the wives, the partners, like, sign off on clothes, which, like, is fair enough to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, have a backbone, boys. Thankfully, like, we got 100% sign off rate with the girlfriends. We're trying to like democratize fashion to a certain extent, democratize the high street. Shopping on the high street is traditionally and has become a chore. It's busy. You try stuff on in a small changing rooms. You don't get any validation. You probably don't look that good in it. You awkwardly have to give it back to the person who's like kind of put that back for you. It's just like rubbish, right? Batch is a place where you can come down, take your time, try on a few different outfits, styled in a few different ways, have a real conversation with real people, whether that's Sam or I or our excellent team, have a coffee, have a beer, and enjoy the experience of shopping privately to a certain extent. And there's really no pressure. And I think that's really singing through our whole business and the culture and what we're building, and why we do 80% of our business in store versus 20% online, is because people want to come and experience Batch. And one of the challenges as we scale will be replicating that model in other retail spaces where, it's a bit of it is like retail therapy, like real retail therapy for guys. And we meet and speak to so many different guys at so many different stages of their life. We talk about male confidence all the time. We talk about wedding season, and we're heavily involved in guys' weddings, which is amazing and beautiful. So I can't remember what the initial question was, but guys getting signed off from girlfriends isn't always needed, and it will be signed off by the girlfriend.
It's the same sort of third space that you get from a barbershop is what we've realised, which wasn't quite the intention, but what we've realised we've created, because it's such a serviced approach, and you're getting advice and genuine advice. If someone doesn't look good, we'll tell them. If that colour doesn't match your skin tone, like, I'm going to push you away from that and tell you to buy something else. Or sometimes, on a rare occasion, like, someone's just not quite the right shape, or it doesn't quite suit them. And I've got no problem with telling someone that, because I want them to be happy, I want them to feel confident. And if it's not right, then I think that builds trust. But some of the amazing conversations we've had with men, because you're just having an open, normal conversation and you don't feel like someone's trying to hustle you in to buy something. It's, it's just nice to have another space that you can feel yourself and feel like you can open up and feel comfortable.
Yeah, well, it is a very comfortable space. Like you walk in here, it's got the coffee bar, it's got I'm guessing you sell alcohol as well, so it's like...
Don't sell it, but have it for customers if they want to get drunk.
Yeah, and then you've got like...
I usually pop a beer with most customers if it's a fitting after like 4 o'clock or something.
But you're right, it's almost like that barbershop vibe where you go in.
Not a real clothes store. People come in and are like, what is this space? We're a clothes brand. But that's the nice side. People come in for a coffee and they'll leave buying a suit.
Yeah.
That's some of the most, like, I had a Polish couple come in for a coffee on Saturday. When people are having a coffee, they're taking their time, they get a chance, and then you get to tell them about the product, tried it on and bought a couple of suits. So the coffee brings people in. It's part of the culture, it's part of the lifestyle, it's part of the conversation, and it works for us.
You guys are obviously like building in public, like on LinkedIn, on social media channels, but do you ever get people just come in, they know that you're doing this, they know you've got a physical store, they know you're in the shop, ever come in to like talk to you about their business ideas or like get some advice about the businesses they're building?
Yeah, all the time, but we love it, to be fair. Mm-hmm. It's part of the ethos of our brand, and one of our easiest customers to win is founders, because our outfit is so appropriate for what they do, where you're on the move all the time and you've got different meetings where you need
carrying your dog everywhere.
like 1 minute you need to look really smart and the next minute you need to look really casual, and we can facilitate both of those and take away another thought process of what to wear every morning. That's part of the reason why people love wearing traditional suits to work so much, because it's a uniform. You don't have to think about it. Most you've got to think about is what colour tie and what colour socks you're going to wear. And so we're sort of bringing that back, but in a way that feels a bit more appropriate for the modern day. So yeah, love chatting to people. Like, there is the occasion where I've spoken to someone on LinkedIn, they popped in to say hi without me expecting them, and it takes 5 minutes for me to work out who they are, because all you know is a profile picture rather than the reality of someone in real life. So yeah, those ones are quite funny, as you're like racking your brains being like, oh, help me out.
I mean, like, we are like LinkedIn noses to a certain extent, but it drives our business forward massively, and it is funny, like, people come in here and feel like they know Sam and I because they've been following us on LinkedIn. We're very open, we're very transparent, we've been building in real life. It's very powerful, and it's nice when people come in, even though it's funny. Like, I've been following you guys, like, people have been following us on LinkedIn for years and have finally decided now's the time to buy themselves something from Batch, and they come in and it's very personal, and that's very special.
Yeah, we spoke about this beforehand, but like, people by people, and like, even we've got the dog here today, and like doing this in here, and
you should have a
like,
coat,
ultimately.
We've just started doing dog coats, but anyway, go on.
Have you? You did it for sausage dog sizes as well.
Yeah.
Really, I have to get one on the way out. But people by people, I think first and foremost, and one of you said earlier on about there's this idea at the moment where people need a certain number of touch points before they're willing to like buy something. We see it I work in the wealth management industry, but like, getting someone to hand over their life savings to you to invest takes a lot of trust. Mm-hmm. But if you can be doing something in public and your sort of like professional persona is online, it makes that process just so much smoother and easier to actually go from, you don't have to do 7 meetings, you do like 7 touch points online, then come into the store and see it, feel it, meet you guys. They already think they know you anyway, and then all of a sudden that friction has been removed to actually doing something.
I think we're moving into, well, particularly in the UK, where we're quite untrustworthy. Everyone's been let down by a brand or by a person, or by a certain government at a certain point in time, or whatever it might be, to feel like you've been let down. So the number one thing to get someone to buy into what you're doing is building trust.
Yeah.
And there's loads of different ways of doing that. But being transparent and open and honest, and finding different ways to build that, whether you're building trust in your certain industry, or whether it's us talking about trends, or this is how we style it, or whether it's talking about, the shit that's gone wrong on that day, or the shit that's gone right. I think you just, like, as you say, you just got to normalize it and help people trust you and lean into what you're doing. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to win that customer over.
You mentioned there about things going wrong, but are there any moments where like you've posted about something online where it has been like one of these days, being a startup founder, stuff is inevitably going to go wrong, but like a pretty bad day?
To be honest, no. And one thing that we sort of touched in this conversation earlier about things going wrong and how we manage it and deal with it. One of the things that Julian and I accepted very early doors in our business journey was that it's quite likely we're going to fail. And I think that's like the number one most important thing that you can accept as a business or a business owner, because things go wrong. Things will go wrong on a regular basis. It allows you to deal with and manage those things with a mindset of like, okay, let's solve the problem. Like, we really don't want this to fail, so now we're going to do everything to stop that happening, rather than the panic of like, it can't fail. If it does, it's game over. That's my identity gone. And then you start to make bad decisions. But I'm not sure we've had too much backlash from anything that has gone wrong that we've spoken about.
What is it actually like working with your best mate?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's on the whole, it's excellent. I mean, Batch wouldn't be where it was if it wasn't for our mutual friendship group. But like Sam and I balance each other out really well, personalities and skill set to a certain extent. It's not without its ups and downs, and it's basically like having another girlfriend at times. But it's a very unique relationship. I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else but Sam. It's working well so far. We've taken it this far, and we've learned a lot about each other and ourselves, and I take a lot from Sam, like personally and professionally, and I'm sure he does from me as well. So yeah, it works pretty well.
I think we've only fallen out maybe once or twice. Genuinely, like on that not like micro.
Is that during the business as well?
During the business, yeah.
We'd have had no reason to have bickered before the business, to be fair. That was plain sailing.
But we've also got better at finding those, and we still probably don't do it enough, but finding those moments to sit down and reflect on each other and just like air any dirty laundry. But then there's also the flip side where it's something might piss you off for 2 hours or a day, and then it's gone, and actually it doesn't really need to be brought up, because it might be, learning that you've overreacted to something, or you've got triggered because you've had a bad day, and actually it's nothing to do with them.
Are there any moments where you've had a big disagreement about something in the way in terms of direction of the business, which when you've eventually settled on the answer, it's actually been a positive for the business and the right thing to do?
Yeah, there's been a few moments. We don't need to go into too much detail, but I've stressed test the made to order model out a little bit and challenged it at times over the years, and we've come back to the resolution that it is what we want to do and how we want to run the business, for all of the positives that I mentioned earlier. And when you chat, co-founder fallouts are the number one reason businesses don't work.
Yeah.
More often than not, it's financially. Thankfully, we've not really had any financial issues, and I think that would probably stress out. We've both invested the same amount of time and money into Batch, and I think as long as you do that, that's where relationships are even as co-founders. If you've both got you've got the amount of skin in the game, and you're working as hard as each other, because if those two are off, then people are going to get pissed off. Thankfully, we're equal on those two, and ultimately, that's kind of the most important part of it being successful.
Yeah, I'm stubborn. And I can be very stubborn at times, and Julian's pretty good at managing that. But yeah, I'm self-aware enough to know that I am, and sometimes that's the right thing to do, and sometimes it's the wrong thing to do.
You got to know your weaknesses, right? I'm not a great communicator. I'd rather sit on something and just rather than voice it, and over a long period of time, that's quite unhealthy. So yeah, and I'm not very patient. I'll just crack on with it, and if I make a mistake, whatever, Sam's a little bit more calculated and considered in his approach. But that's, again, the balance, right? I'll just get on with it and Sam will think about it. And that's a nice balance to have.
Yeah.
Did you disagree initially about the made-to-order business?
No.
No, it was it.
Yeah, made sense.
So just when the thing about made-to-order is it's a slower growth model, because you don't use the same growth levers that you would use in a stock holding model, where you're sitting on a load of stocks. So you're like, okay, cool, how do we sell it? Let's discount it, or let's chuck loads of money at paid ads and watch the ROAS go up. So there is an element of patience to the business that at times when you're feeling it's shit, this month's not going as well as it could have done, or you're questioning things as every founder will at various stages. It's okay, well, hang on a minute, maybe we do hold some stocks so we can push some of those growth levers.
I think we should actually, just for people that aren't necessarily completely familiar with the made to order model, but we've spoken about it from a business perspective, and it makes so much sense that you're not just spending so much money on the outlay initially to have loads of stock and stuff like that. So, you said that co-founders are one of the main reasons why businesses fail, but cash flow is another one, probably the number one reason why businesses fail, and ultimately running out of cash. But the more money you're spending on having just a shit ton of stock in your stock room will be burning into that cash. So you take the payment first and you're able to then go and make it. And that as a business model is amazing.
Yeah.
And then also then you've got the sustainability side afterwards, which is you buy something and it's less likely just to be fast fashion and end up in landfill and all that sort of stuff. But from a business model perspective, you've created so much headroom that you know what stock you need and you know how much you're going to get for it, and the variables don't really change as much.
Correct. And there's like significantly less margin leakage, which a typical fashion brand would have, because we don't have storage costs, we don't have any returns, 0.2% return rate. And
Wow.
most clothing brands are getting 50-60% sent back in the post.
Wow.
The reprocessing of that is often more expensive than just chucking the garment out. Like, that's fast fashion in a nutshell. And as I was saying earlier, it has benefits at every stage. How it currently works is we collate orders throughout a month, place an order with our manufacturer, and it will take them between 3 and 4 weeks to make it. So customers wait between 7 and 8 weeks at the moment, between 4 and 8 essentially, if they order at the end of the month 4. Our challenge now, we've brought a new head of ops in, Pim, is to bring that lead time down to 2 to 4 weeks by basically placing more often with more orders with our manufacturer. We believe that's the sweet spot for made to order. People are willing to wait for something if they know they're getting better quality for less. One of the weak points of our model at the moment is that 8 weeks is a long time to wait for something, especially if you need it for something in particular, like a wedding. So driving that lead time down will be one of the key indicators of how we scale and grow this business. But we're already well on our way to doing that, as our monthly orders are scaling month on month, year on year. Obviously, batch is growing well, and we're soon going to be in a stronger operational position to place more orders with our manufacturer, place more pressure on them to create the garments more quickly, because in theory it only really takes about a week once the garment's in production, even less than 5 days to a certain extent. So we can drive that lead time down. As the business grows, that model becomes more efficient. As we continue to perfect the made to order model, that potentially becomes a bigger business than batch itself. Batch as a brand is always going to be big, and we hope to, grow it to a massive brand. But perfecting the made to order model is potentially the cherry, where if we can create like a licensable model, this is how made to order works. Here are all the wonderful reasons why you should adopt it. The cash flow benefits, it's more sustainable, less margin leakage, the list goes on. Here's our licensable model. It's going to cost X for you to plug it into your business. So that's kind of potentially big picture thinking. That's like 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, but setting our stall out hopefully to be able to achieve something like that alongside batch.
So you want to kind of be the trailblazers for this, you sort of redefining what the fashion industry looks like, but actually
and consumer brand industry to a certain extent. It doesn't necessarily just have to be clothes, it can be other products.
We spoke about there, you used the word ambition and sort of where you want to get to, but what are your ambitions with this business? Like how big do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a lifestyle business? Do you want it to be something that you scale up and sell in the future, for example? Like where do you want to go with it?
I think ultimately we're building to exit, and we're fairly aligned on that. But those ambitions can change as the business grows. Like at the moment, we're 3.5 years in. We're not quite at the point where we can claim we're ready to exit or really have those in-depth discussions. But that's what we're building to achieve personally. But outside of that, also to sort of ignite a bit of a spark and a change in the way that we consume. So we've got a nice dual purpose. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, we'd be lying if we said we're not in this to make a bit of cash. But there's also a bit of a deeper meaning behind it, which sort of drives our vision and why we started it and what we're looking to achieve. But as Julia mentioned, there's a bigger picture behind it, and potentially a massive process model sitting underneath it that again could just continue to make passive income. And I think that's the dream for everyone, isn't it? Passive income.
Yeah, everyone talks about it. It's this terminology that's been sort of thrown around a lot. I'm not too sure. A lot of people thought that like property was passive income, and then you realise that being a landlord is not passive at all. But if you can license something and then hopefully scale it, then
it's an interesting one. I think short term, it's like have a better quality of life. Like, I'm not going to lie, I'm skint. I'm not mad privileged. Like, my parents are from the northeast. My dad was in the RAF. My mum was a health visitor. I went went to private school, but that's because the RAF paid for it.
Yeah.
So I haven't come from bags of wealth. To be fair, these days my parents have done well for themselves. My dad has now got a cushy job, etc. But I live in a pretty basic flat in London, miles off a house deposit.
Yeah.
My ambition for back short term is to like get paid, buy a house, you know, afford a nicer quality of life in London. Like, but everything is kind of on the line. Everything is tied in batch right now, and that's what drives me every day. Is like, well, yeah, I would like to, you know, turn a profit next year, and in years to come, pay myself a healthy dividends. You know, that drives me forward. It drives us both forward. Like, we want to get paid, obviously, and then the long term vision, God willing, we make it there, is sell it for, you know, millions. But short term, it's like, let's turn a profit and, you know, enjoy our life a bit, is kind of where I see it.
I think the sacrifice often gets missed when you're talking to startup founders, and a lot of them are reluctant to talk about it.
Because most of the people you interview have fucking made it. They're like making, like, a lot of people anyway are like in that period. We're not there yet.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I think that you got the Stephen Bartlett, which is most of the people, well, at least it started off as this, not anymore, it's all a little bit clickbaity, but it was like people who had made it and almost forgotten what the journey looked like. And I think my ambition with this podcast was to try and create something where people can know like who's at the coalface of the business, and like hear like sometimes how tough it is, or if it's in a career, like what it's actually like climbing that ladder, for example. But people don't speak about it. Survivorship bias from most people, which is you only hear the stories of those people that did make it. Where what about the stories of the people that are in it or didn't make it? You know, those are the ones where we spoke about it earlier on, like maybe 1 in 7 businesses succeed. Well, what about the other 6 people, or like the people that are going through it? And it's tough, but
I do find it frustrating though, because even the people that have made it, so rare, and I find it really refreshing when you do hear it. Do they talk about all of the sacrifices they made along the way? And the end result of that is this like unneeded pressure on young people to be super successful by the time they're 23. And I've a few people that I've spoken to, young people recently, that are like sacrificing their essentially their childhood, you know, 18, 19, for this ambition to go and be this next big thing. And I'm like, do it, but also just take a moment to enjoy your life a little bit, because otherwise you're going to look back at this in 10 years time and be full of regret that you've, you know, lost some pretty crucial growth years in your life to work out who you are and who your friends are, and make sure you're happy.
People don't want to go to uni anymore. And like, uni ain't just about like debt and a degree, you know, it's the experience, all these wonderful people you're going to meet, partying, like finding who you are as a person. And people are like, you know, wanting to just get a job straight away. I think like we're just about probably ahead of the curve in terms of age, but like a lot of the people that we do business with, a lot of people that we speak to, a lot of the men that shop at Batch are like 30s, late 30s, 40s, still working it out, but loving life. And I think just take it easy.
Yeah, I think it's nice, like as we sort of mentioned before, having this third space, but and meeting loads of different founders, but you'd be surprised at how many layers it takes to get through to be like, how actually are you? Like, I struggle with probably the same things you struggle with. To Julian's point, I'd love to pay myself a bit more. Lots of our collective mates are in really well paid jobs, and we're trying to keep up. And you know, we're not paying ourselves peanuts, and it's not nothing, but London's expensive, and there is a lot of sacrifice in there. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Will I continue to make that sacrifice? Yes, but I do think it's important to reference it and you know, for everyone to understand and feel comfortable talking about the flip side of, yes, being your own boss is the best thing in the world, but there's also no need, like, you never get to switch off at the same time. With every pro, there's a con.
Do you feel that it would have been easier for you to start this business not in London? And the reason why I asked this question is because I did a solo podcast recently where I spoke about exactly as you both said there, like some people are not wanting to go to university, some people want to start a business, and my sort of key reason I believe for this is that property is just so expensive. Like you need to have in some cases 2 incomes now to be able to afford to actually like buy a place or even to rent in some places. Now obviously your baseline cost of living is your rent, and you're in one of the most expensive cities in the world here, but you've got one of the biggest opportunities that you're in Covent Garden right now. Do you think that you could have been as successful if you were building this outside of London, given that your costs would have been a lot cheaper?
Nah, not really.
No.
No, is the answer to that question. I mean, like, all the opportunities are here. It's still expensive to live in other places. You're still going to have like relative overheads versus the relative opportunities. It had to be London, to be fair.
Don't get me wrong. There are times where I've sat there, like, you know, going to my corner shop to buy not a lot and spending a tenner. Like, what is going on? I've bought a couple of bits of fruit. Like, this is mental. I remember like having an argument with my corner shop guy the other day because he bought a couple of jacket potatoes and they were extortionately expensive. And he was like, it's not my problem. I was like, well, kind of is. You set the prices, mate. But anyway, digressing. Where
picking the fights with the wrong people, I
yeah, it's just, where I've thought, you know, had I not started a business in London, would I still be here now, like with an ambition to live and work abroad at some point in time? And the truth is, I probably wouldn't, you know. But I'm glad I have, and London is my city. I grew up here. Will always love London, but there are times when it feels tough, for sure.
Yeah, it's not. Like, even like, I work in the finance industry, and you know it's a well-paid industry. But even I look around at the moment, and young people just can't get on the property ladder, and it's like it's mental when we consider it to our parents' generation, like how difficult life is at the moment.
I find it marginally frustrating that like getting on the housing ladder is like a signifier of somebody's like wealth or success. And to a certain extent, I totally understand why it is, because you know that safeguards your capital. You've got it tied up in something sensible. You're not burning money on rent, you're not paying somebody else's mortgage off. But it's a bit of a sad state of affairs that like that is what's considered successful, and then that is what happiness is valued on as well, because like people renting, buying, it doesn't matter. If you're happy, and I think like, but you know, I'm victim of it as well because I'm working towards trying to buy a house.
In
the same breath, but that's the sad reality that we've got ourselves in. It's
less happy when you've got to replace the boiler.
Yeah.
Seems like a great idea until you've got to do it.
Yeah.
But I'll ask this question to you each individually because it's something that I've sort of battled with and trying to understand like what the meaning of these words are. But like, what do ambition or success like mean to each of you individually?
For me, I've always had the ambition to finish life with couple of grandkids sat on my lap and tell them about all the cool shit that I've done, and that sort of
or clingy dogs,
all that lap dogs that aren't lap dogs, and that's sort of always been a big driver for me. It's recognition and respect ultimately, and the money drive in there is so that I can live comfortably and fun doing all of these cool things, whatever they might be as life develops. So yeah, those are my drivers.
So it's like family orientated, would you say?
It's partly family orientated, but more recognition and respect, and to finish life feeling like I've spent it well and that I've not wasted it.
Julian?
Yeah, I think it's similar to a certain extent on like the validation, respect. Success for me is like having a really nice quality of life, being happy, being healthy, having really solid.
How do you quantify happiness though?
Having a really solid life partner that you know love and can share experiences with, go home to at the end of the day and be happy, go on nice holidays with. Like that's really, really important to me. You know, have good relationships with your family and friends. That's what like health and wealth is. Health as well for me is really important. I just want a nice quality of life. I want a nice car. I want to go on fancy holidays. I want to eat out at any restaurant I want to eat at. I want to not have to think about stuff. But I think I'm always going to want to work hard, have something. And Sam and I, happily to admit it, like owning a fashion brand in London is a bit of a status. Batch isn't quite there yet. I'm not like blowing our own trumpets too hard, but it definitely feels good having something very tangible in London that we've built ourselves. And that is like having that, making that a success to the point where we exit for millions or we're very profitable and we have that nice lifestyle is that ambition. And that is what kind of equals success for me.
If Batch didn't exist, like if you, let's say you sold it, for example, do you think that you would both take a period out? Would you both roll into something straight away? Like what do you reckon? Like, what is it that is driving you on from that perspective? Would you start a business again together as well?
You'd have to be mental not to take a break.
Yeah,
because you're basically just like constantly towing the burnout line. So like again, health as well. For your own health, like taking a short break would be smart. But we're both very entrepreneurial and like we're coming up with little ideas all the time, and you know, like debating whether there's a side hustle that we can start, or another element to Batch we can bring in. So So yeah, no doubt we would start another business. I'd love to do it with Julian again, but it would depend on the business, where we end up at the end of the relationship. We're miles away from that yet, so who knows? But yeah, we've got lots of complementary skill sets.
Difficult to answer that question without all of the context of the time, kids, family, other opportunities. We've both had, like, you know, it would be cool to live abroad potentially, move out of London. Who knows?
Country of choice.
Depends. Like, if I had enough wealth, I'd stay and live in London.
Yeah.
Buy a nice house with a garden, be close to like Hampstead Heath or Richmond, so you've got some outdoor area.
Just a cheap place.
Yeah, well, we're going to sell this business for a lot of money. Hope that's the ambition, right?
Which country would you go to if you had to pick one now? Because, like I said, this is becoming like one of these real hot topics of conversation at the moment, isn't it?
I think I haven't thought about it too much, to be honest. Somewhere that's still got a nice culture, good weather, nice climate, somewhere where the kids can go to school and have a good education, etc., would be important. Where that is quite hard to tell. Maybe somewhere in Europe, maybe somewhere in the States would probably be the two destinations.
Wouldn't be Dubai then?
Nah, I'm not interested in the Middle East.
Yeah, I'll probably be in Australia. Which I think that there probably will be a period of time, if the business keeps going on the trajectory that it's going on, where UAE is a target market.
Yeah.
And it's in many ways an obvious one because of the amount of expats and natural market that already exists there. It's tons of wealth. It's a good place to build a business. So yeah, it wouldn't be top of my list, but I'd be happy to move there for a couple of years to set a business up. I think it's a good place to have young kids. There's an element to it which is soulless, and maybe there'll be some people that hate that, but I think it's hard to disagree with.
Yeah.
I think the quality of life in like Dubai in the Middle East is amazing. You know, it's sunny every day. You're on the beach. Money's good. Like, there's no tax or little tax. So it's like, you know, you can see why people like it for sure. But you know, we like place with, you know,
A bit more character.
And culture, which is why we love London.
Yeah. Are there any countries that you want to expand into overseas?
Part of the next stage of our growth journey is testing those markets, because there's loads of different directions we can take it, particularly with the product we've built, because it's quite universal for all men, and we've discovered that and discovered that with the different cultures that have come into the shop and bought into Batch already. But yeah, the UAE's up there, the States at some point in time, but you know, that's really more of a timing piece. When is the right time to do it? There's obviously lots of different issues with import and export and things going on in the States at the moment that make that difficult. There's huge markets across Europe, the Netherlands, some of the Scandies would work really well for
that. Oh yeah, Amsterdam. This would fit Amsterdam very well, wouldn't
Amsterdam's very Scandi style.
Stockholm, Oslo.
There's loads of places that we could take it that would work. So part of the next stage would be stress testing a few of those markets and working out where the initial one is. But I think we're both very confident that this has the potential to be a massive global brand. I mean, even like Tokyo, Korea, similar sort of style. So we're quite well placed to go and do that. In some ways, there's almost too much choice.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting and to go and discover that and see what the next step is.
But as a founder, you said there's too much choice. Like, a lot of entrepreneurial people will have this sort of shiny object syndrome where you're always trying to find the next big thing, but how do you actually like balance that optionality and work out like what you should actually focus your time on?
It's a good question. At the moment, the focus is very much on the domestic market, growing Batch in the UK, in London, and then what does it look like maybe having another store in a different city in the UK or another couple of stores in London. As you're doing that, and as the brand is growing from an e-commerce perspective as well, you definitely get a feel for who's buying your suits from different countries. We do get some German customers, we get some Irish customers, we get some customers from the States. There's lots of factors that you have to take into account, obviously. Where I would love to see us grow, whether or not it's the right destination is yet to be seen, as America, and like having a flagship store in New York or LA on the West Coast. So yeah, when you take on America, you kind of have to pick a state and focus on it. It's so big. The economy's thriving. I speak to so many founders that are like, I wish I'd started in America sooner, or I wish if I had another chance to start a business again, I would start it in America. if we can prove concept in the States, that's when Batch's valuation rockets.
Yeah, of course.
But that's the same anywhere in any international market, really, but particularly America. So that's the shiny carrot. Whether or not it's achievable or realistic is yet to be seen, but it's an ambition that's running along in the background.
Yeah, I saw actually Gymshark over the weekend or last week open their flagship store in New York, which is pretty amazing. Are there any companies that you actually look to as an inspiration?
Gymshark's one of them.
Is it actually?
Yeah, and largely because they're a brand that grew to 500 mil revenue D2C only.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting because I think there's a lot of pressure in actually all industries, but to chase wholesale, and often that can undo a business rather than sticking to your guns, sticking to your own channels, not sacrificing the margin in sake of growth, makes profitability harder. I think they're a great inspiration of a brand that has a lot of similar characteristics in that they very cheaply won influencers and celebs without having to spend loads of money and leverage that for growth, which feels like there's a good crossover between what we're doing here. The other one for me personally, and I'm sure Junior's got some different ones, is Ralph Lauren.
Interesting.
And the reason being that I've realised that there's a lot of, again, there's a similar customer profile. We're solving the problem. Like Ralph Lauren has always been a brand that for blokes that didn't necessarily know how to dress, it's a good default option. But then was also great for blokes that didn't know how to dress, and there were loads of like elements to their brand where they had a couture line, and you'd see Ralph Lauren on the catwalks. But then it was still acceptable for, someone like me growing up who wasn't particularly well dressed, despite making the effort, to just go, cool, Ralphie shirt, nice pair of chinos, and that's me smart casually done. So I think there's a lot of interest for me in that brand and following some of their footsteps. And yeah, watch this space. Next Ralph Lauren's Batch London.
Just to sort of finish up on this now, but like, if there was one celebrity that you would want to have wearing Batch, what would it be? Who would it be?
It's a really annoying question because people always ask me this. I really don't have a good answer for it.
We've got Anna Shearer over here in the shot.
Shearer soon come. Watch this space. I've always said David Beckham, but it's annoying. So it's not realistic because he's got like a 10-year deal with Hugo Boss. Any like massive actors, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, like, I've actually low-key got a link to Messi, which hopefully, like,
just casual, drop that in.
I won't take it any further than that because it's probably got a few stages to go. But watch this space. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, Lionel Messi. I'll say, fuck it, set the tone.
Similar to Julian, like D-Bex has always been an aspiration, just because he's British, he's a fashion icon. He'd look great in the suit. So I think that'd be really cool.
McConaughey would be cool, wouldn't he?
Matthew McConaughey. Maybe Tom Hardy is one of my favourite actors.
Okay.
Quite nice, scalp to have in the business.
Like, again, not to blow our own trumpet too much, like we've had like some pretty big names wear Batch now, so like the ambition has to be to go for like the biggest people in the world now at this stage, because obviously there's loads of people we'd love to dress, but like if you're asking the question, like we've got to shoot for the stars, and I don't think it's that unrealistic.
Who was the first person that bought a suit? You're like, fuck, like that was
Jamie Lang.
Jamie Lang bought from our very first collection, to be fair to him, which was very sound of it.
That's
and
nice.
Came to our launch party with Sophie, and it was when we were doing suits for women as well, which we don't need to delve into. And yeah, he bought them both suits, which was cool. Theo Walcott's a regular customer.
I've seen him on TV wearing it as well.
Ashley Walters has spent $5,000. Ashley came to the shop and spent $3,000, bought the whole collection in our old Spitalfield store. Ashley was one of the ones where I was like, this is pretty mad, because like he's top boy.
Had you reached out to him, or did you turn up?
We'd reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, I'll come through.
I think Theo one was really interesting for me personally anyway, because it wasn't off the back of us
It's all online.
reaching out to him or inviting him in. It was fairly organic. Come across it. We'd not met him, bought 3 suits, loved them. We tried to reach out, didn't get any replies, and then another order came in for another 3 suits and 3 overcoats, and like before you know it, become one of our biggest customers.
Wow.
Before we'd really had a chance to engage with him, which we've now subsequently done, and been like, love the brand, is there more we can do here? So
He's now back.
yeah, I think that was an interesting one for me, that someone of that profile that really has the choice to buy anything they want, it's not shortchanged, has just chosen organically to pick up Batch, which I think that was cool moment from a purchase perspective.
Well, boys, I've had a great conversation here, and in an amazing location as well. Which you look around and you can see all the styles. What are these here that you got, by the way? Are these a new range of coats?
There are new overcoats. So obviously, we make casual suits. We do shirts. We make these overcoats, both in the wool herringbone that Sam and I are wearing and a wax canvas. These are 4 new prototypes that we're testing. They're not live officially, but people have been coming in store and trying them on, and we've been selling them to people if they're interested in buying them. The camo one and the tartan one in particular are doing very well. 2026 is obviously a big year for us. We have a new fashion designer on board. We have a pattern cutter who we've been working with for years, and we'll be designing new suiting silhouettes. So we've always had this one silhouette. We've got some new stuff coming. We'll have other products in the pipeline as well. The vision is to become the go-to made-to-order brand, smart casual menswear made-to-order brand. So yeah, in terms of product development, casual suits is our hero product, and I think it will be, and it'll be interesting to see if that changes over the years to come. But we've got plenty of other new products coming, including the best sellers of these coats. Really,
it's quite sweet. Our new fashion designer and pattern cutter worked together for 10 years before we were born. So
Wow.
they are literally like I call them our fairy godmother and fairy godfather of the fashion industry, for two guys that they're like aren't trained on that.
Shout out Francis and Graham. They're absolute legends.
Yeah.
And we're not fashion designers, but having people so technically abled close to us and our vision is going to be an exciting few years to come in terms of the new suits that we're going to release, the new outfits that we're going to release, the new clothes we're going to release. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, nice to be propelled by people that are better than you.
Chaps, been a great conversation,
Yeah.
and again, thank you so much for your time, and genuinely exciting to see what you guys are doing. So I look forward to seeing what 2026 has in store now.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you.
Cheers.